I'm Novalie Quinn, 28 years old, a nurse who poured every dime of my savings, $350,000, into saving my parents' Portland home from foreclosure. The next day, they sold it behind my back and vanished to California with my brother, Jasper, leaving a note that burned my soul. "Thanks for bailing us out, fool. Catch us living large in LA. Have you ever given everything to family only to realize you were just their ATM? Tell me in the comments. I need to know I'm not alone." It was a stormy Tuesday in Portland, rain pounding like it wanted to drown the world. I'd just dragged myself through a 16-hour shift at the hospital, my scrubs soaked, my body screaming for rest. But my heart, it was soaring. Last night, my mom, Leela, had held my face, tears streaming, whispering, "You're our angel, Novalie." My dad, Frank, who hadn't hugged me since I was 16, pulled me close and said, "You saved us." I thought I'd finally won their love. I was wrong. I pulled into the driveway, wipers slashing through the rain, and my stomach dropped. The house, my home, was a ghost. The porch swing where I dreamed of being a doctor, gone. Mom's prized azaleas, torn out, roots choking in the mud. The windows gaped, curtainless, like empty eyes. I fumbled my key, heart hammering, and pushed the door open. The house was gutted. No furniture, no photos, just echoes. On the floor, a crumpled envelope with my name in Mom's sharp scrawl. I ripped it open, and the words hit like a blade. "Thanks for bailing us out, fool. Catch us living large in LA. With Jasper." No sorry, no shame, just a knife in my back, twisted with glee. I collapsed onto the floor, the same oak where I'd built pillow forts as a kid. My chest burned, not with tears, but with something sharper. Clarity. They thought they'd used me, drained my bank account for their California fantasy. They didn't know one thing. I wasn't the girl they abandoned at 16, begging for a place to sleep. Last week, when I paid their debt, I'd seen their shifty eyes during the refinancing, so I'd done something they'd never expect. I had the deed slipped into my name, every paper signed, sealed, notarized. Their sale? A sham. Their dream? Dead on arrival. In 24 hours, they'd learn what it cost to betray the daughter who carried their weight for years. I stood, the note crushed in my fist, rain roaring outside like a battle cry. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I smiled, because this wasn't over. It was my turn to play. Stick with me to see how I flipped their betrayal into my victory. You won't believe what's coming. And if this story's hitting you, hit that subscribe button for more raw, real-life dramas like mine. Trust me, you'll want to know how this ends. I'd spent my life being their fixer, the daughter who said yes when they said need. But that night, staring at the hollow house, I saw it all. They'd never loved me like they loved Jasper, the son who wrecked everything he touched. I'd been their bank, their doormat, their fool. No more. The storm raged on, washing away the last of my trust. I stepped onto the porch, the note still clenched in my hand, and felt something new. Power. They thought they'd broken me, but they just handed me the match to burn their lies down. What did I do next? How did I make them face the wreckage they left? Stay tuned, because this is where it gets real. 6 months ago, I was asleep in my car. The back seat cramped, the windows fogged with my breath. Portland's rain tapped the roof like a restless ghost. My phone buzzed at 2 a.m., shattering the quiet. It was Mom, her voice raw, choking on sobs. "Novalie, we're losing the house," she said. "Your father's investments tanked. We owe $350,000. Her words hit like a punch.
That house was my anchor, where I'd carved my initials on the oak tree at 10, where I'd baked cookies with Grandma before she passed. Losing it felt like losing her all over again. I sat up, the seatbelt buckled digging into my hip. "What investments?" I asked, voice sharp. Mom hesitated, her sniffles loud in my ear. "Your father thought he could flip some properties. It didn't work out." Of course it didn't. Frank's schemes never did. "What about Grandpa's inheritance?" I pressed, my breath clouding the cold air. "We helped Jasper with his startup. He's struggling. You know that." Jasper, the golden son, always crashing cars, tanking jobs, charming his way out. Yet they poured money into him like water into a sieve. I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles white. At 16, they'd kicked me out for Jasper's privacy after I caught him stealing from my wallet. I'd slept on friends' couches, worked night shifts at a diner to survive. They never apologized. Now they needed me, the daughter they'd discarded. "The bank's coming for the house," Mom pleaded. "Foreclosure's set for next month." Her voice cracked, heavy with guilt she'd never name.
"You're our only hope, Novalie." I wanted to hang up, to let them drown, but I saw the porch steps where I'd read comics, the attic where I'd hidden during their fights. That house was mine, not theirs. I didn't sleep that night. By dawn, I'd made my choice. I drained my savings, every cent from years of double shifts. I maxed out 2 credit cards, took a personal loan with interest that felt like theft. My hands shook as I gathered the cashier's checks, $350,000 in a manila folder. It was everything I had, everything I was. I drove to the house, rain blurring the windshield. My heart pounded, not from fear, but from something deeper, hope. Hope that saving them would make them see me, really see me, not just as the fixer of their messes. I'd been invisible since 16, sent away so Jasper could have his space. When I walked in, Mom gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. "Novalie, you did it?" she whispered, eyes wide. Frank stared at the folder, silent, his jaw tight. I nodded, setting it on the table. The weight of it felt like handing over my future. They didn't ask how I got the money. They didn't care about the 80-hour weeks, the ramen dinners, the panic attacks in the hospital break room. They just took the checks, their fingers brushing mine like I was a stranger. I waited for something, gratitude, pride, love. Mom's eyes flicked to Jasper, who lounged in the corner, smirking at his phone. "We'll pay you back," she said, but her voice was hollow, like a script she didn't believe. I left that night, the rain heavier, my car colder. I'd saved the house, but not for them, for me, for the girl who lost everything at 16 and still carried the scars. Something felt off, though. Their eyes didn't meet mine long enough. Jasper's smirk lingered in my mind, sharp as a splinter. I didn't know then what they were planning, but I learned soon enough. The kitchen smelled of roasted chicken and lies. I sat at the dining table, the same one where I'd done homework as a kid, my hands still raw from clutching those cashier's checks. Mom bustled around, setting plates, her smile too wide, too practiced. "You're our miracle, Novalie," she said, her voice sweet as syrup. Frank nodded, his fork scraping the plate, eyes fixed on his food. I wanted to believe them, to soak in their words like warmth after a long shift, but something was off. Jasper sprawled at the table's head, his chair tipped back, grinning at his phone. He hadn't said a word to me, not even thanks.
His new watch gleamed, catching the light, probably bought with the last of Grandpa's inheritance. I pushed my mashed potatoes around, my stomach tight. "How's your startup, Jasper?" I asked, keeping my tone light. His eyes flicked up, sharp, like I'd caught him stealing again. "It's killing it," he said, smirking. "Big investors, big plans." Mom beamed at him, her hands fluttering. "He's got such a head for business," she said, as if I hadn't just handed over $350,000 to save their roof. Frank grunted, cutting his chicken, his silence louder than words. I took a sip of water, the glass cold against my lips. I'd spent years chasing this feeling, being seen, being enough. At 16, they'd sent me away, saying Jasper needed space after his first DUI. I'd begged to stay, but Mom just packed my bag, her eyes avoiding mine. Now they were all smiles, all praise. But it felt like a performance. "Tell us about the hospital," Mom said, her voice bright, like she cared. I started to answer, but Jasper cut in. "Got a meeting in Seattle tomorrow," he bragged. "Big tech guys, they're begging to fund me." I froze, fork midair. His startup had been about to take off for years, yet he still lived in their basement, rent-free. I glanced at Frank, expecting a raised brow, but he just chewed, nodding like Jasper was a prophet. My chest tightened. I'd worked 80-hour weeks, skipped meals, sold my old guitar to make that payment. They'd taken my life savings without a blink, yet Jasper's empty promises got their applause. Mom reached for my hand, her fingers soft but cold. "We're so proud of you, Novalie," she said, her eyes darting to Jasper, like she was checking his reaction. I pulled my hand back, the warmth I'd craved curdling into doubt. I looked at the table, Mom's overdone smile, Frank's silence, Jasper's smug grin. This wasn't gratitude. It was a transaction. They'd gotten what they wanted, and I was just the delivery girl. After dinner, they insisted on a photo. "For the family album," Mom said, posing us by the fireplace. I stood stiff, my smile brittle, Jasper's arm slung around me like we were close. The flash burned my eyes, and I saw it then. His smirk, the same one he'd worn at 16 when he'd pocketed my birthday cash. I left that night, the rain softer now, but my heart heavier. I'd saved the house, but for what? To be their hero for a day, then back to being invisible?
I drove back to my car, my makeshift home, and sat in the dark, replaying Jasper's words, Mom's hollow praise. Something shifted in me, a quiet warning. Their love was a trap, and I'd walked right in. But traps can be disarmed. I just didn't know yet how deep their betrayal ran. The rain was a roar that night, Portland's sky splitting open like it knew my world was about to crack. I pulled into the driveway, my headlights cutting through the storm, and my heart stopped. The house was wrong. The porch swing, where I'd whispered dreams to the stars, was gone. Mom's azaleas lay slaughtered in the mud, petals bleeding into the dirt. The windows stared blank, no curtains, no warmth. I stumbled out, rain soaking my scrubs, my sneakers slipping on wet gravel. My key shook in my hand, scraping the lock before it turned. The door creaked open, and the silence inside was louder than the storm. The house was gutted. No furniture, no photos, just bare walls and echoes. My boots clicked on the hardwood, each step a memory, building forts, blowing out birthday candles. In the living room, a single envelope lay on the floor, my name scrawled in Mom's angry pen. I tore it open, rain dripping from my hair onto the paper. The words burned. "Thanks for playing Family ATM, Novalie. We're sipping cocktails in LA with Jasper. Good luck with the empty shell." No remorse, just venom, mocking the $350,000 I'd bled for them. I sank to my knees, the note trembling in my fist. My chest heaved, not with tears, but with a fire I hadn't felt since I was 16, kicked out for Jasper's sake. They'd used me again, turned my sacrifice into their getaway fund. But I wasn't that girl anymore. I'd seen their game coming. 2 weeks ago, during the refinancing, I'd noticed Mom's signature waver, Frank's eyes darting to Jasper.
Something was off, like a shadow moving in a locked room. So I had acted. I'd slipped the clause into the papers, quiet as a whisper. The deed transferred to my name, signed, notarized, filed. Every check I'd handed over, every sleepless night, had bought me control. Their sale was a fraud, a house of cards in a storm. I stood, the note crumpling in my hand, rain hammering the roof like a pulse. I didn't scream, I didn't cry. A smile cracked my lips, sharp as glass. They thought they'd won, thought they'd left me broken. They didn't know I'd been watching, learning, waiting. I stepped onto the porch, the storm soaking me through.
Lightning flashed, lighting up the yard where I'd once played tag. The house was mine, not theirs. Their California dream was a lie, and I held the truth in my hands. I saw Jasper's smirk from that dinner, Mom's too sweet smile, Frank's silence. They'd played me for years, but this time I'd played smarter. The note wasn't their victory, it was their confession. I tucked it into my pocket, the paper soggy, but heavy with proof. My phone buzzed, 3 missed calls, a California number. I ignored it. Let them sweat. Let them wonder why their bank account wasn't singing. The rain slowed, but my pulse didn't. I wasn't the daughter who begged for love anymore. I was the woman who owned the ground they'd tried to steal. I walked to my car, the storm fading, leaving a quiet that felt like power. They'd thought they could erase me, but they'd only sharpened my edges. I didn't know yet how far they'd fall, but I knew I'd be the one to push them. Morning broke gray and heavy, Portland's mist curling like smoke around my car. I pulled my hoodie low, sunglasses hiding the fire in my eyes, and drove to the title office downtown. The place smelled of stale coffee and old paper. A clerk, a wiry man with a greasy comb-over, sat behind the counter, his name tag reading Gary. His smirk faltered when I said my name. Novalie Quinn, I repeated, voice steady. I need to confirm ownership of 1427 Maple Street. Gary's fingers froze on his keyboard. He coughed, eyes darting to a back room. That property, it's complicated, he stammered. There's been a sale. I leaned closer, the note from Mom burning a hole in my pocket. Check again, I said, my tone ice. He typed, sweat beading on his forehead. I saw it then, the guilt in his twitchy hands, the way his gaze flicked to a crumpled envelope on his desk. Who paid you? I asked, low, sharp. Gary flinched, his chair scraping back. I don't know what you mean, he writhed, voice cracking. I slid my ID across the counter, my eyes locked on his. My parents tried to sell a house they don't own. I transferred the deed to my name last week. Check the records. His hands shook as he pulled up the file. The screen glowed, and his face went pale. It's yours, he muttered. Sales invalid. I nodded, calm on the outside, a storm in within. I'd caught them. The $350,000 I'd paid, the nights I'd gone hungry, had bought me more than a house. It bought me control. Gary mumbled about paperwork errors, but I cut him off.
Who bribed you? I pressed, my voice ablade. He looked away, lips tight. Just some guy. Said he was your brother. Jasper. Of course. His smirk from that dinner flashed in my mind, smug as ever. I stepped back, rain tapping the windows like a countdown. You'll hear from the sheriff, I said, turning for the door. Gary called after me, his voice desperate. Wait, I didn't know. I didn't look back. He was a pawn, not my fight. By noon, I was at the sheriff's office, the notes spread on a deputy's desk. Attempted fraud, I said, handing over my deed, the refinancing papers, every scrap of proof. The deputy, A woman with kind eyes nodded. "This is solid. We'll freeze their accounts pending investigation." I felt it then. A rush. Clean and sharp, like air after a long dive. They'd thought they could vanish to LA, sipping cocktails on my dime. But their bank account was about to choke. Their dream house, a mirage. I drove home, the city blurred by mist. My phone buzzed. 5 missed calls. California numbers. Mom, Frank, Jasper. Unraveling. I didn't answer. Let them feel the walls closing in, the way I had, at 16, locked out of my own home. Back at the house, I stood in the empty living room, rain soft on the roof. The note's words echoed, family ATM, fool. But they didn't sting anymore. They were a confession, proof of their greed. I'd turned their betrayal into my shield. I wasn't done. Jasper's bribe, Mom's lies, Frank's silence, they'd pay for it all. Not with jail, not yet. I wanted them to feel the ground slip away, the way they'd left me to drown years ago. The deputy's words rang in my ears. "We'll handle it from here." I smiled, small, fierce. They'd played their hand. Now it was my turn. The calls came like hail on a tin roof, relentless, desperate. My phone buzzed through the night. Mom, Frank, Jasper, their California numbers lighting up my screen. I didn't answer. I sat in my car, parked outside the house, the rain now a drizzle, soft as whispers. Their voicemails piled up, each one sharper, cracking with panic. Mom's voice, high and brittle. "Novalie, the bank's frozen our account. What did you do?" Jasper, snarling. "Fix this or you're done." I played them on speaker, their words bouncing off the dashboard. No apologies, just demands. They thought I'd cave, like I did at 16 when they left me on the street for Jasper's space. But I wasn't that girl anymore. Then, a text from an unknown number. "Check your mailbox. Tessa." Jasper's wife.
My thumb hovered, hesitant. We'd never been close. She'd always been Jasper's shadow, quiet, compliant. I walked to the mailbox, the street lamp flickering in the mist. Inside was a USB drive, no note, just a sticky label. Truth. I plugged it into my laptop, heart pounding. Files loaded, emails, bank records, screenshots. My parents' plan laid bare. They'd plotted to sell the house weeks before I paid the debt, emailing a realtor about cutting Novalie out. Jasper's messages bragged about bribing the title clerk, promising him a cut. One email from Mom to Jasper stung deepest. She'll pay. She always does. Guilt's her leash. My hands shook, not with hurt, but with a cold, clear rage. They'd weaponized my love, my sacrifice, like it was nothing. I saved the files, emailed them to the sheriff's deputy. Fraud wasn't just a mistake now. It was a felony. Documented, undeniable. Their California dream was crumbling, and I held the sledgehammer. By noon, another voicemail. Jasper, his voice raw, no smirk left. "Tessa's gone, took the kids, said I'm a con man like Dad." He laughed, bitter, broken. "She found your stupid note. We're screwed, Novalie." I pictured them in LA, their fantasy unraveling. No cocktails, no beach house, just a cheap motel, their bags unpacked on a stained carpet. Mom called next. Her sobs different now, not manipulative, but hollow. "We didn't mean it. Come talk. We're family." Family. The word tasted like ash. Family didn't leave you homeless at 16. Family didn't mock you for saving them. I deleted the message, my fingers steady. Tessa's text came again. "I'm sorry. I didn't know the whole plan." Attached was a photo. Jasper, drunk, sprawled on a motel bed,
Mom and Frank arguing in the background. They look small, not powerful, just desperate people chasing a lie. I didn't reply. Not yet. Tessa's betrayal of them was a crack in their armor, but I wasn't ready to trust her yet. I leaned back in my car, the USB drive warm in my hand. The sheriff had the evidence now. Their accounts were frozen, their sale voided, their lies exposed. I drove to the house, the sky clearing, a rare sun breaking through. The porch steps creaked under my feet. Familiar. Mine. They thought they'd stolen my home, my heart, but they'd only shown me their truth, and mine. I wasn't their savior anymore. I was their consequence. Their voices kept buzzing, pleading, raging, but I let them echo into silence. They'd built their cage, and I'd locked the door.
What came next wasn't revenge. It was something colder, sharper, and I was just getting started. The house smelled of fresh paint, warm bread, and a quiet I'd never dared imagine. I stood in the hallway, paint roller dripping gray, erasing the faded beige that held my childhood's weight. No more echoes of Mom's crocodile tears, no shadows of Jasper's smug laughter. I'd claimed every inch of this place, not just with a deed, but with my hands, my will. New locks shone on the doors, heavy, unyielding. The old ones, the ones they'd turned against me at 16, sat in a box, rusted, useless, like their promises. I hauled in furniture, a sturdy oak table, a blue armchair catching dawn's light through the bay window. A bookshelf for my novels, not their clutter. Each piece was mine, chosen for the life I was building, not the one they'd torn down. The living room, once a stage for their chaos, now held a stillness that felt like breathing after years underwater. In the backyard, Portland's mist hung low, the grass damp under my sneakers. I'd built a fire pit, a circle of stones I'd laid myself. I carried a bundle of their relics, Mom's birthday cards full of hollow love yous, Frank's apologies scribbled when he needed something, Jasper's IOUs as empty as his charm. I struck a match, the flame small but fierce, a spark of my own making. The paper curled, blackened, their words dissolving into ash. "We're so proud," Mom had written when I got my nursing degree. A lie, I saw now, as clear as the smoke twisting toward the gray sky. I watched it rise, my heart steady, no guilt, just a clean release. I wasn't burning my past. I was clearing the ground for my future, like a farmer before planting. This house wasn't just walls. It was my defiance, my proof I could build what they couldn't touch. I walked the halls, my steps soft on the hardwood, each board a memory I'd chosen to keep or let go. At 16, they'd locked me out, saying Jasper needed the guest room after his DUI. I'd slept in alleys, worked diner shifts, my hands raw from scrubbing plates. Now, I stood where they stood, and it was mine. My phone buzzed, a voicemail from their lawyer, voice slick as oil. "Miss Quinn, your family seeks an amicable resolution, a family-centered approach." I laughed, the sound sharp in the quiet yard scattering birds from the oak tree. Amicable? After they'd mocked my $350,000 sacrifice, called me their fool? I called back, my voice cold, homed. "Did they tell you they left me homeless at 16?" I asked. "Said Jasper's privacy trumped my bed?" Silence. He coughed, flustered. "No, they didn't mention that." I hung up, the line dead, like their lies. I didn't need a courtroom. I had control. The deed, the mortgage, their fraud laid bare. They could beg, scream, chase papers. It wouldn't move me. I turned a guest room into a bakery studio. Grandma's voice echoed, her hands guiding mine to knead dough, her laugh warm as fresh rolls. She'd seen me, not as a fixer, but as Novalie, her girl. I bought an industrial mixer, shelves for flour, glass jars for yeast, sugar, salt. The first batch of sourdough rose, the scent chasing out the stale air of their betrayal. I named it Novalie's, in my mind, a business born from love, not duty. The kitchen hummed, alive, as dough swelled under a cloth. I painted the walls sunflower yellow, hung Grandma's photo above the counter, her apron dusted with flour, her smile real. No pictures of Mom, Frank, Jasper. They didn't belong here. Neighbors noticed. Mrs. Carter, gray curls bouncing, knocked with a grin. She said, "It smells like a bakery." I handed her a warm roll, steam curling like a promise. "You're doing good, kid," she said, her eyes kind, not like Mom's crocodile tears. Another call came. Jasper, voice cracked, desperate. "Mom's sick, Novalie. We're broke. You gotta help." I set the phone down, let it ring out. I'd carried them too long, bled for them too often. Tessa's photo flashed in my mind. Jasper drunk, Mom and Frank fighting in a motel. They'd built that cage, not me. I needed dough, the rhythm steady, grounding like a heartbeat I'd forgotten I had. The oven glowed, warm, real. I sliced a loaf, the crust crackling under my knife, and took a bite. It tasted like beginnings, like a life I'd fought for, earned. Their voicemails piled up, unheard, deleted. This house, this bread, this peace, they were mine. I wasn't their daughter anymore, their ATM, their doormat. I was Novalie, whole, unbroken, rising like dough in the warmth of my own home. I stood in the backyard, soil under my nails, planting lavender where Mom's azaleas once choked. The sun warmed my shoulders, Portland's sky clear for once, like it knew I'd found peace. I'd boxed their things, Mom's faded scarves, Frank's tax forms, Jasper's old trophies. I drove to their motel, a squat building off a dusty LA highway. They stood outside, Mom's hair wild, Frank's eyes sunken, Jasper slouched, phone idle. I set the box down, no words. Mom reached for me, her voice thin. "Novalie, let's fix this." I stepped back. "You fixed it when you left," I said, my voice steady. Jasper glared, but his fire was gone. I turned, their silence heavy behind me. Back home, I planted more. Rosemary, thyme, sage. Each root was a promise, a life I'd grow for me. Tessa emailed, her words raw. "I'm sorry. I saw their lies too late." I didn't reply. Not out of anger, but because I was done opening doors for others' regret. They fell apart. Jasper lost his apartment, hawking scams online. Mom and Frank bounced between motels, their Facebook posts blurry, fake. I didn't watch. I blocked their numbers, their faces, their guilt. My bakery thrived. Novalies drew crowds, the scent of sourdough pulling neighbors in. Mrs. Carter brought friends, their laughter filling my kitchen. I wasn't just surviving, I was living, free of their weight. That night, I lit a candle in the hallway, its glow soft on the gray walls. I thought of Grandma, her hands in mine, teaching me to bake, to stand tall. They tried to break me, but they'd only shown me my strength. You, watching this, listen. Family isn't a debt you owe forever. When they use your love, walk away. Build your own home. Plant your own roots. You're enough, just as you are. Love this story? Like, share, subscribe. Join me for more tales of breaking free.